Hello again, wrestling fans, and welcome to another edition of the Scumbags Wrestling Podcast. This is episode 155, I believe, and sorry, a little delay from Thursday when we normally are on, but as I always say, it is a family first show, and if people, part of our crew, or even myself, have some family medical issues, we're going to have to take care of those first, and wrestling will always be around for us. But we are able to get on here today, look at some of the news from the past week, and also get ready for later on tonight, where we're going to have NXT in your house 2. Takeover in your house 2. That's going to be on the WWE Network later on tonight. 7 o'clock is the kickoff show, 8 o'clock for the main show, and a 5-match card going on there. We'll get to that, but we also want to remind everybody that we are sponsored by Coolbet, and they want to remind everybody to stay cool, bet responsibly, and you can place bets on different sports and also fights and I believe horse racing. There's different ways you can be involved, and possibly even gaming. I haven't fully checked out their website, but yeah, there's so many ways you can bet with Coolbet. And stay cool, bet responsibly. They sponsor all our shows, and especially this championship belt, which you can win from Undisputed Belts. And Coolbet is our sponsor of this. All you have to do is join us on the prediction league. Put your guesses of who's going to win each show from NXT, AEW, WWE, or Impact Wrestling. And we're going to total up the points, and by the end of the year, somebody will be walking away with that championship belt. But that's all later on. And I'm probably going to do a separate show just to make sure it's separate for what's happening tonight with the Predictions League. But I also want to remind you that you can get Pro Wrestling Tees. Go to either prowrestlingtees.com/Pro Wrestling Junkies or prowrestlingtees.com/Scumbags Wrestling, and you can buy one of these two shirts, Stevens 3 or the Independent Wrestling Tribute comic book page from Mars, and all the money is going to Stevens Wrestling Journey, searching for Carrie malformation research at Children's Hospital in Toronto. You can also check out Stevens Hearts for Carrie, and that's a link there for getting in touch with Steven and making donations. We've donated $500 so far. We plan on donating more. Both these shirts are $21.99, and they're available at Pro Wrestling Tees. Whether you go to the Pro Wrestling Junkies page or the Scumbags of Wrestling page, either shirt are going to support Steven's Wrestling Journey. So make sure you get involved with that. We got a lot of news going on, and I'm going to start with the fact that the other day, Triple H had a press conference and was talking about the upcoming Takeover special, but of course he took other questions, and people wondered about, I guess, what people he thought of people's thoughts on WWE not being so good anymore, and he kind of blamed us, the fans, as to why it's not as enjoyable, because we have so much expectations of what we think storylines are going to go to and where things are going to go, or expectations for NXT stars that get brought up to WWE, that we sort of disappoint ourselves instead of letting things play out as they should. Now, I can see that to a certain extent, and people play armchair quarterback way too much and expect way too much compared to what is offered. But at the same time, do we really need Shayna Baszler running from a demonic doll to end Monday Night Raw this past Monday? I don't know about that. And look at all the talent in WWE that came up from NXT and were a shell of themselves from being brought up. Triple H has put that as they grew to a certain extent in NXT. When they came up to the main roster, they stopped growing, and that's where the problem is. I don't know. I still think it's people like Kevin Dunn and all them who don't get the vision of them from NXT and let it carry over to being brought up to the main roster of Raw or SmackDown. It's just really detrimental to some of their careers. Triple H also mentioned that the best wrestlers in the world want to work for WWE, and that's where everybody is, if they're the best, is in WWE. I get that. And Tony Khan responded on Busted Open Radio saying that he kind of agrees with Triple H to a certain extent, but all companies are making their best roster. And he knows people who do not want to work for WWE. I don't know if that's fully true, but if your boss is asking you or you're in conversation with your boss wondering if you want to work somewhere else, I'm going to deny it to their face. So people like Britt Baker, who may not want to openly work for WWE, but her husband, boyfriend, fiance, Adam Cole does. You know, ideally you want to work at the same place, so it makes travel much easier. But I think at this point, people who are in the business just want to get to either AEW and then eventually WWE or vice versa. As long as they make it to those rosters, they're probably happy. But if you're not in this business to get to that level, I don't know. Maybe it's just a hobby for you, but you would hope that that's going on. And Triple H also said about the fact that the best women are all in WWE, and Thunder Rosa and a couple others had issue with that because she feels she's the best and she's with NWA and AEW. But he also was asked about, because the NWA, now that they have Mickey James there, and that was announced just recently, her no compete clause is still in effect, but she's not in a wrestling mode. She's going to be a producer of NWA's first women's only show. And so people got asking Triple H about that factor and the fact that they only had one Evolution show. And he didn't think there was a must need to do another Evolution type show and having a women's only. And I kind of get that. I don't mind the fact that they wanted to have an all women's show. They did an all women's tournament with the Mae Young Classic 2 years. They did that for. They could always bring that back. The idea of having a all women's event, sure, I'm down with it. But I can see his point of it not being must need because it doesn't take the quality side of things. People want equal rights and want to be recognized equally. And at the same time, the moment you say, I want equal rights because I'm blank, you kind of take away the fact that you are wanting equal rights. If you want to be considered the same as somebody else, you can't identify as something other than a human being. The moment you identify as something other than a human being, you're opening yourself for inequality, whether you're putting down somebody else because they're not the same as you or because you want better because of your gender, your race, your orientation, whatever. Well, the moment you take yourself out of the human race, that's different. That's not equality. And Triple H kind of said that with the fact that if he were to advertise WWE, that being were to advertise a men's only show, people would be up in arms about, oh, it's a men's only show and how dare you do that. But if it's a show that has mixed everything on it, you're just putting on the best of the best as opposed to making sure you get those targets or segregate things. So I can get that. It doesn't look like we're going to get another Evolution follow up or different name women's only pay per view from WWE, but you can look forward to one. I believe it's in, I want to say August from the NWA. And I think the next night they're doing a regular pay per view, and those are coming from St. Louis. So that's to look forward to in the future. We'll have more details as those coming to fruition. Otis shaved off his beard in time for this week's episode of SmackDown. He's still teamed with Chad Gable as part of the Alpha Academy, and I guess it was more evolution to his heel persona that's going on. He even took out Montez Ford during their match and injured him accidentally. But yeah, Otis is shaved off his beard, and Mandy Rose even responded because they had been romantically linked together leading into WrestleMania 36, and she even put a sort of meh looking emoji in response to it. Excuse me for a second, sorry. People are speculating that NXT might be bringing back Samoa Joe, even though he was part of the releases from WWE right after WrestleMania. He's if he's brought back to NXT, it's thought that he will be returning as a wrestler. He also apparently was recently at the um, Performance Center this week. Sorry, my throat is parched at the moment. I'm leaning over to get something out of my fridge. It's a Palm Bay. Visually, I apologize for that. I was just coughing, and thankfully, audio-wise, you did not hear that. But yeah, so speculation is that he's going to return, and if he was just recently at the Performance Center, those rumors could be true, and he's still under that 90-day no-compete, and they could bring him back, much like they did Drake Maverick. That's also a rumor of Aleister Black possibly coming back. So anything's possible when you still have those 90-day no competes. They can renegotiate your contract. They can always bring you back going, maybe we were wrong about getting rid of you. We just have to wait and see. So with NXT doing Takeover tonight, we could potentially see Samoa Joe if all those rumors are true. WWE also recently moved Brock Lesnar back to the active Raw roster. He is speculated to be featured at SummerSlam on August 21st in Las Vegas, the home of the Raiders. But Dave Meltzer is also reporting, and of course, this is Dave Meltzer, that when he was on Sunday night's main event with Jason Agnew, that the match for Lesnar against potentially Bobby Lashley is not set in stone and is not currently on the card. They're thinking that it'll be him returning when it's open season for him to be able to go against Roman Reigns and rehash that again, basically fighting over ownership, I would say, of Paul Heyman. Hopefully, we don't have a thing like Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero for custody of Dominic happening with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. But anything's possible. Um, I wouldn't mind seeing Brock come back if that's going to happen. God forbid. But if he's over on Raw and Heyman goes back and forth between Raw and SmackDown and eventually does lead to Roman versus Lesnar, where one or both of them are giving him the ultimatum that you're either with me or with him, not both. And that could build up some storyline in that regard. So we'll have to wait and see. Once again, it's Dave Meltzer saying that it's not on the card for Lashley against Lesnar happening at SummerSlam. But things change. SummerSlam looks like it's only going to be about 3 hours in length, starting at 8 o'clock, going to 11, so that people could still leave the arena in Las Vegas. And since they're on West Coast time, it's going to be I'm going to say 8 o'clock, I believe. 8 o'clock Vegas time by the time they leave at 11 our time here in the eastern side of North America. So that allows them to go over to the other venue that's happening with Manny Pacquiao and his fight. And so they're looking to keep it about 3 hours, probably an hour for the pre-show, the kickoff, and they also want to make it look like WrestleMania. So try and stuff that into a 3 hour time slot. Please everybody and get them out to the Pacquiao fight. I wish them luck. They got a lot of plans. They could be shorter matches, but bigger marquee things because there's talk about Edge coming back. The main event being Roman and Cena. And if Lesnar's there with Lashley, there's so much they got to squish into 3 hours. And we still haven't even seen the return of Becky Lynch going on. So who knows? Definitely that's being held off. But yeah, it's just trying to figure things out, and hopefully they are planning ahead, which WWE has not been doing a lot lately of. Aleister Black is now going by Tommy End. He was recently on Renee Paquette's Oral Sessions podcast talking about his release. He mentioned that he had good conversations with both Bruce Pritchard and Vince McMahon about his time there, especially on the main roster where things didn't go as hoped for, especially with the whole losing of the eye or poking of the eye going on, so and the feud with Kevin Owens. So that's why they kind of cooled him off a bit. And then they were just getting ready to get him out there. He also had a new song being made. He was going to have a new entrance, all this stuff, and we saw him kick the head off of Big E a couple weeks ago, and then poof, gone. So it's just kind of weird. Vince even apologized for what happened. There's still the rumors that people backstage are pushing for Aleister Black to be rehired. Once again, like I said with Samoa Joe, 90 days doesn't mean you're gone until those 90 days are up. WWE could still pull the trigger and try and negotiate with you. There's also talk that even if when the 90 days are up, that Black could be going over to AEW and could be Tommy End there. Right now, you can get Tommy End merchandise. That's all up for grabs right now because he started putting that out. So just give it a check. He's on social medias, and you'll be able to find his stuff, probably even on Pro Wrestling Tees. So who knows? Well, just have to wait and see. There's about 80 days ish, maybe less than 80 days um, before the no compete clauses are up and where people are going to land. And I think we're about 30 ish days. We're about 30 days before the 90-day clause is up for the talent released in April. So plenty of time going on there. Also, during that interview, Tommy ended up talking about his situation with him and the release of his wife, Zelina Vega. He kind of said it was messed up, what was going on, but at the same time, as a husband to her, he didn't think it was right. But as the professional and Aleister Black, he tried to differentiate between what happened to his wife and what he needed to do for his career. And Zelina apparently also understood that and supported his decision to obviously stay while he was still employed and magically, unfortunately, put on that list just recently. So, and she was even spotted at the Performance Center doing stuff with The Rock's daughter. So who knows what's going on with that? Maybe they'll both end up at AEW after time is up. We just saw Andrade end up showing up, and he's with Vicky Guerrero. But anything's possible. It's the wrestling world. Speaking of AEW, Friday night the company announced special names for 4 of their shows coming back when they return to the road. I think I wrote the name down wrong, but Miami on July 7th is something involving Rage. I think I missed that note totally, but do have these ones. On July 14th, Austin, Texas, they will be doing night 1 of Fighter Fest, and night 2 of Fighter Fest will be happening the following week on July 21st in Houston. And then the week after that, July 28th, that episode will be entitled Fight for the Fallen, and that's their charity show that they have done recently. Taz missed this past episode of AEW Dynamite as he was getting a lump removed from his face. We wish him well in his recovery, but I guess it's not going to be too long for him. It's just a facial lump that need to be taken care of, and he should be back next week. Another superstar, though, that is not doing well is Demolition Axe. Bill Eadie is experiencing heart trouble after getting a COVID vaccine dose recently. And Lenny Poffo posted on his Facebook page about wanting prayers for Axe. This is not the first heart issue that Bill Eadie has had. as 30 years ago he had heart issues, and that was why WWE brought in Crush to be the third man for Demolition to kind of cover up for Bill's health issues. Bill could just still show up while Barry Darso and Brian Adams did the work as a Smash and Crush. But then when he was feeling well, he could tag in, or they could do six mans and stuff like that, and doing the Freebird rule. So it was a good way of covering up for Axe's elements at that time. It's unfortunate that this COVID vaccine is causing more problems this time around, and we definitely send out thoughts and well wishes for the recovery of Bill Eadie, aka Axe of Demolition, in going forward. I recently saw a interview on Facebook with Barry Darso, and while he was signing autographs, and he had really good things, obviously, to say about his longtime tag team partner. Edge and Sasha Banks are looking to be back in time for SummerSlam. They've both been announced to be returning on the SmackDown when they first go live in front of fans on July 16th. Both of them are somewhat on vacation or healing up in certain some cases. Sasha could be also filming some more. You never know what's going on during this time away, but they are both due back July 16th, and that'll get them ready to be at SummerSlam, where Edge is rumored to be there as a babyface and possibly facing Seth Rollins as part of SummerSlam. Once again, they were looking to make it a big event, much like a WrestleMania, and that would be a big matchup having Edge against Seth Rollins. If you recall right, years ago when Seth was part of the Authority, the Authority was gone at the time, and John Cena had the power to, I guess, bring them back. Edge was out there and got threatened to have his curb stomp applied to him from Seth Rollins on the Money in the Bank briefcase, where Seth attempted, blackmailed, should I say, John Cena into agreeing that the Authority should come back, and Edge was spared. Now, if they're smart, they'll go back and look at some of that history, and maybe that would be a good way of setting up Edge against Rollins, because now he doesn't need John Cena to defend him. He can defend himself and have a great match that way, which we've never seen before. Wrestling Club, a Middle Eastern wrestling site, is reporting that WWE could be back for another Saudi Arabia show as soon as November. There had been talks between Saudi Arabia officials and the Sports Authority, I think is that they have over there, along with WWE, and figuring out travel and resuming their 10-year deal that they have. That was basically paused, and the shows that have been missed are just going to be tacked on to the end of their contract and extended a little bit longer, because we missed almost 2 years of Saudi Arabia shows. Definitely a year and a half, so probably 3 shows in total have been missed, so they'll get tacked on later on. A lot of people think that with all the talent and employees cut, and maybe more still to come, that Vince McMahon is getting ready to sell WWE. The WWE stock is back to the levels where it was before the pandemic, but at the same time, Eric Bischoff and Mark Henry have spoken out on their different things, 83 Weeks and Busted Open Radio, respectively, and they do not believe that this is the case. However, if it does look like they are trying to stop paying out money, more money for people than they needed to work there, Braun Strowman is an example for sure, where at one point, because AEW was coming and there was all this rumor and build up to them coming to fruition, WWE's contracts were coming up, and there was people that were getting signed for probably way more than what they were worth, especially in the eyes of WWE and maybe some of the fans. And so a guy like Braun Strowman was getting 1.2 million per year. I believe that was also with his downside guarantee. If it wasn't, wow. On top of that, but because of the pandemic, because of AEW filling out their roster as it is, and maybe not being the big a threat that WWE perceived them to be. Excuse me, perceived them to be upon their first incarnation of saying, "Hey, this is what we're going to do." WWE's got a chance to look at them and go, "Nah, we're not worried." But they also need to answer to their stockholders, even though they're making tons of profit, especially with the billion-dollar deals with Fox and NBC with Peacock. The bottom line is, if you're not making money, you're wasting it and throwing it away. And this is a business, it's not a charity. And unfortunately, some people have to go by the wayside. And that's what's happened last while. They realized that they were doubling up on or overlapping some jobs. There was some talent that were probably getting paid, as I said, more than what they should have. So with things going on, they are trying to restructure their business. They're going to go back on the road soon. Looks like some NXT people are going to be brought up. So it also frees up space. I've said it a few times before, and not that I want anybody to lose their job, and especially now that there's an alternative like AEW to go to. It was always refreshing beforehand when there's WCW, where you could say, hey, they're leaving WWF and they're going over to WCW. They get debuted, they do a career over there, then they eventually come back, and you're like, oh, they're back. We've seen a lot of guys that are working with WWE that have not left ever. And I'm speaking of guys like Randy Orton, a guy like Edge, even. He left because of retirement. But if he hadn't been injured, would he have still been going on like he is? Like, it would have been like Randy Orton, never leaving. How can I miss you if you never leave? And now that there's the alternative with AEW, and they're the strongest viability, because unfortunately you can't rely on Impact or Ring of Honor or MLW. They are a nice alternative, but they're not the same level as having the exposure that AEW has, and of course, obviously WWE. So I hope that we get to see fresher things. AEW, while not having a lot of continuity and storyline wise and stuff like that, that is consistent, like I said, continuity, but makes sense. We're not getting repeat matches over and over again like we do on Raw and SmackDown, especially over Raw, where you have almost 6 weeks of cut and paste, and here we go. But it'd be nice to have a fresh roster coming up. And I think at the end of August and the last Monday in August and the first Friday in September is scheduled to be another WD draft, which will shake up the current roster. And also, there's talk about bringing up people from NXT to fill out the rest of the spaces and create something fresh in time for the new fall season. So I hope that does happen, and things get a little bit fresher once they hit the road with fans coming back next month in July. John Cena looks to be wrapping up his filming of Peacemaker for HBO Max by the beginning of July. This is perfect timing as WD is headed back on the road starting on the 16th, and he's heavily rumored to be going against Roman Reigns in the main event at SummerSlam. Now, he was just recently on a interview. I heard just a little bit ago. I forget who it was with, but they asked him what is he doing August 21st, and he didn't say what he was doing. He kind of just said he's hoping he's enjoying his summer at that point in time, but he wasn't willing to give away anything. Braun Strowman is looking for indie gigs once his 90-day no compete is finished. Once claiming that he would never work for anybody but WD. I guess the monster among men realizes no matter how much money he has made, he still needs to get out there and do some work. And while he really wasn't a wrestling fan by birth-ish, how a lot of best wrestlers are. He stumbled into it after doing strongman competitions. He still needs to make a living somehow, unless he's invested really well. But the problem is he might only be working for WWE if the rumors of him wanting between $20,000 and $25,000 to go to any indie show for 3 hours and also have first class plane flights, 2 nights in the hotel, dinner accommodations, and all this other stuff. That's a lot to ask for him to show up at your show. So I don't know if that's going to happen, but there are some people willing to pay that. Even Tony Khan might decide to do that. But I've heard also people say that that would be a bad call by Tony Khan to bring him in, not because it's Braun Strowman, but because of it being Braun Strowman and the size of him compared to the rest of their monsters they have there. He would end up making them look smaller than they are, especially a guy like Lance Archer. And also then the rest of the roster would look like dwarfs compared to Braun Strowman, and going as children. So, yeah, unfortunately, just because of the way he is, it's going to be a little bit hard for him to get a job. But I wish him luck, and maybe he'll show back up in WWE eventually. Shayna Baszler is fully into a program with Alexa Bliss and her doll Lily. Yes, her doll. As seen at the end of Raw on Monday, Shayna was haunted by Lily and presumably attacked at the end of the show. Will we be seeing a change in Shayna Baszler going forward, like we did when The Fiend attacked Alexa? Because that was the start of Alexa Bliss going down the spiral and becoming who she is right now when he attacked her um, over a year ago. And now we see where she's at. Um, So I'm wondering, will Shayna take the life form of maybe Lily, and be joining Alexa Bliss in that regards? You can always send me a comment or go over to our page and check that out. We're available on all the things that you can see below, uh, and also we accept you coming in right now. If you were to see our Facebook page, there's a link there for you to join us. So have your say. Leo Rush announced the other day on his Twitter account that he will be retiring from wrestling again. He's currently under contract to New Japan and said that he will be fulfilling his contractual obligations to them, but then he's going to retire. Apparently, he got injured during his appearance at Double or Nothing in the Battle Royal, and might have been an arm injury or something. And he also is a recent father. So he definitely wants to end up being more of a dad to them. Um, though I think he's already retired one other time. So retirement number two could catch up if this continues, because how young he is, to how many retirements Terry Funk has had in his lifetime. But if this is the end of the road for Leo Rush, very talented guy, and all the best to him. It was reported that AOP retired after getting released last year by WWE. The Authors of Pain member Razor addressed the rumor with a picture of the team and Paul Ellering together, presumably from the past, mind you. And they were flipping the middle finger, and he stated, "Ain't done yet, bitches." We'll have to wait and see where they turn up once shows return and if people are willing to employ them. They were a very green team, but I think under the tutelage of Paul Ellering, they started getting way better. And yeah, they could be definitely somebody to look forward to bring back if the opportunity arises. Tola Bellas could be wrapping up soon. It looks like E Network won't be renewing the series. This is good news for Daniel Bryan and Birdie, who have not been fans of their lives being filmed for all to see. And the series has been seeing declining ratings since John Cena split from Nikki and left the show. Nikki Bella also was thinking about being a good time to wrap up the show because she doesn't want her son being resentful for the fact that his life was being presented without his permission to the world. And then you also have, I guess, both Bellas have been talking about wanting to return. Nikki is looking to change her style, and eventually the Bella twins could come back and be the first sisters to win the WWE women's tag team titles, title that did not exist when they were fighting before, and they kind of hinted at stuff when they went after Bailey at WrestleMania. So it would be quite the matchup in a way if the Bellas are in better form, especially having somebody like Daniel Bryan helping them out, but also if they're coming back better, going against maybe Sasha and Bailey, that would be kind of one of those dream matches that aren't dream matches, depending on your views of the Bella twins. So well, we'll just wait and see. Eva Marie is set to debut this Monday on Raw. It is expected that even though she's been doing a positive motivation vignettes and speaking positively, she's going to come out as a heel and could even bring a couple of heel females with her as muscle, including the likes of Piper Niven. Carl Anderson is not a fan of tweets sent out by released talent from WWE. Most talent who get released almost immediately send out a tweet thanking WWE for their time and a dream come true and all this other stuff. Being positive, which I get because, hey, you don't want to burn that bridge. But Anderson also has been on that side of things and being fired by WWE and claims that he's had more success and more money since leaving WWE, presumably being with AEW and Impact, and also doing their talking shop podcast. Usually say it like that, and also doing their own little pay-per-views here and there. But he's wanting people to be more um, blunt, I guess, in their releases, and basically telling WWE to go F themselves instead of being all nicey nice and presenting a stiff upper lip and cheery disposition. But hey, teach their own. If that's what Anderson wants to do, hey, go for it. Said the draft is going to be on the 30th. And yeah, last night, Impact Wrestling had Against All Odds. That happened on their app channel, and it was held at Skyway Studios in Nashville, except for the main event, which was recorded at Daly's Place in Jacksonville, Florida. And so the results as follows are Sami Callihan and Tommy Dreamer defeated the Good Brothers in a street fight by pinfall. Joe Doring, who had Eric Young, Diener, and Rhino by his side, defeated Kojima, who had Eddie Edwards in his corner by pinfall in a singles match. Petey Williams, Trey Miguel, Ace Austin, Chris Bay, and Rohit Raju ended up in a no contest. This was a five-way match to determine the number one contender for the Impact X Division Championship. They have Slammiversary coming up next month, so I can almost see this being made into a six-way, maybe even bringing in the X. Was it? Oh, I'm trying to remember what they call their match with the X, Ultimate X, with it hanging above the ring. So that could be coming up for Slammiversary. Debbie Morrissey defeated Rich Swann by pinfall in a singles match. Tennille Dashwood, who had Caleb with a K by her side, defeated Jordan Grace in a singles match, and Jordan Grace had Rachel Ellering by her side. Fire and Flava, Kiera Hogan, and Tasha Steelz defeated Kimberly and Susan by pinfall to retain the Impact Knockouts Tag Team Championships. Violence by Design, Cody Diener and Rhino, who had Eric Young by their side, defeated Decay, which was Black Taurus and Crazy Steve, by pinfall to retain the Impact World Tag Team Championship belts. The Knockouts singles women's championship was on the line as Deonna Purrazzo retained over Rosemary by pinfall. And the main event, which took place over in Daly's Place, which is the home of AEW, had Kenny Omega defeating Moose by pinfall. Of course, there was a lot of shenanigans going on there, and the Young Bucks ended up inserting themselves and doing multiple super kicks on Moose, and then the ending happened with the lights going out and coming back on, and Sami Callihan was there, and he ended up going after Omega. Don Callis came out and told him not to do it, threatened to be fired. Callahan proceeded to hit Omega and got fired. That's not going to end that way. Scott D'Amore came out and yelled at Don Callis, and they were arguing going backstage. Basically, I can see a Slammiversary being Sami Callihan against Kenny Omega for the Impact Championship, with probably some deathmatch rules or lights out rules going on with that, since it's Callihan and Omega. And that's going to come up on July 17th, I believe it is. Yes, Saturday, July 17th for Slammiversary. So that's all I got at the moment. I'm just going to plug a couple things, and I'll come back at 3 o'clock for our look at NXT Takeover in Your House, which has obviously Todd Pettengill coming back. There's a ladder match for the $1 Million Championship. There's the Fatal 5-Way main event. The women's title being on the line. There's a grudge match going on with Xia Li and Raquel Gonzalez. Mercedes Martinez. And, of course, a winner-takes-all match for the North American and tag team titles. So I'll talk about that in just a couple minutes. But I'm going to show a couple things of upcoming things involving the Johners Podcasting Network, which we're a proud member of, and the Ontario Indie Podcast Network, which we're also part of.
Here at Toiletside Wrestling Talk, we interview the top wrestling stars on the independent wrestling circuit, with questions including, who exposed you to wrestling? Were you nervous the night before your first day of training? Did your family support your wrestling dream? Are you a witch? For $700,000, would you legally marry a horse? Have you ever cried from a Vin Diesel movie? These questions and much more on Toiletside Wrestling Talk.
Excellent. And yeah, you can catch Toiletside Wrestling Talk as part of the Johners Podcasting Network. There's links to all the shows. There's, I think, almost 30 shows, different channels going on there. We want to congratulate Kyle of Kyle's Wrestling Podcast. He's also on that Johners Podcasting Network for getting to 1 year of podcasting. He can be found as part of the Johners Podcasting Network, and new shows are coming soon from Kyle's Wrestling Podcast. You can join Dennis Day Jr. as he brings you the best and updates from and latest from Chicagoland Wrestling on What Do You Say with DDJ. The mini host is returning with 5 questions. This week, her guest is Elena from Battle Arts Academy. George Mackay has many shows that you can check out, and just dropped within this hour was MLW Rewind, episode number 20. And that dropped, as I said, just within the last hour, and you can always find out stuff with him. Just want to put up, I forgot this graphic. What Do You Say with DDJ, part of the Johners Podcasting Network. And speaking of the Johners Podcasting Network, there you have an interview with Stephen Arnott. He is a part of Chicagoland Championship Wrestling, and he is part also of the Johners Podcasting Network. So John Scott is interviewing one of his own during this episode, and I believe that's coming up in just a little while. I've received a Text message. Yes. That it says at 3 o'clock, latest interview with CCW commentator Stephen Arnott. Any shares of this will be great. And they're going to go live at 8 o'clock UK time, which is 3 o'clock our time. So we got 15 minutes until that happens. And you can catch that going on over on the Johners Podcasting Network. Now, I want to let people know that wrestling classes are starting, and there could be a new update of this one, but at Hard Knocks Wrestling Academy in Listowel, Ontario, is with Midwestern Western Stars, Best Pro Wrestlers, Tuesday and Thursdays, 6:30 and 8:30. And as things are starting to open up, you can get training eventually at Hard Knocks in Listowel. So give them a check when you get a chance. And I'm going to... HWE is presenting Country Carnage, happening this summer of 2021, and it's coming to us on YouTube from Hamilton Wrestling Entertainment and everybody over at Battle Arts, AC Coca and friends there. You can also check out all the latest news on Alliance Pro Wrestling Network, and those shows drop daily for a few-minute peek into what's going on during the wrestling that day. And two more things I want to share with you, and I'm just going to bring them up. Share a screen. And one is involving a basketball game that hopefully... No, it disappeared. Not that one. We're going to stop that one. We're going to share a different screen. My apologies. It should have been a YouTube channel. But our friend Rex Atkins, along with Eazy-E, are two good brothers.
I had this ball. Drink your sweaty ball sack. I'm on the court, Jesse. Really humiliated. I want to hurt his feelings. I'm tired. Different era now. It's gonna be a long game, guys. Oh my God, this guy. Oh man, okay.
So as you see right there, Rex Atkins against Eazy-E in a white man can't jump sort of basketball game going on, and Holden Pro has Holden Pro Wrestling website is going to have all that going on. So check out Rex and Eazy going one-on-one in basketball for humiliation purposes. And the other thing I wanted to share is over here. Barry Wrestling is returning very shortly once the rules of pandemic lockdowns are relieved, and they have a big event. And as you see there, that was Barry Wrestling and they're coming back with the Ontario Cup, the All Ontario Cup. 30 Ontario wrestlers, a showcase of the best in the province, and it's going to be a 30. I don't know if it's going to be 30 man or definitely 30 person tournament. Best of the best from all Ontario, not just Barrie Wrestling, and they're going to be coming together for this unique tournament this Monday, aka tomorrow. They're going to start 14 days straight of announcing participants. And so, obviously, we're hoping to have a show on next Thursday, and we'll have an update on who's been entered into the All Ontario Cup, presented by Barrie Wrestling. And I believe that's all I have for the moment. I will be back about 10-ish minutes with information on the Scumbags Prediction League presented by Coolbet, and we'll run down tonight's card of NXT Takeover in your house too. So thank you for joining me. That was our news for now. I hope to get Steven back in here and share his opinion as well and have more banter. Remember, you're always welcome to join us on our shows. I try to post a link where you can just click on, nothing to download. You'll pop up down below. I can bring you in. You have your say, and we can talk wrestling. That's what this is about. This is a community effort at the Scumbags Wrestling, and we'd love for your opinion to be heard. And just remember, we are part of the Johners Podcasting Network. As you see there, a lot of shows to look at. The Bob Culture podcast, Straight Talk with George Mackay. There's Chicagoland Championship Wrestling. It's Time to Fight with Matthew Terry. The Wrestle Carnival, which is coming up with Carnival of Honor, Ring of Honor connection there. And I'll just share something with that in a moment. The Call Up, the Jofo in the Ring podcast, Ewoks and JB show, Work the Left Side, Gilmy Talks, Knights of the Squared Circle, and many more. There's just so many that I can't read them all at one time, but you know we are part of the Johners Podcasting Network, and in just about 5 minutes' time, John Scott is going to go live with his special guest. The Johners Podcasting Network is also a proud sponsor of the Wrestle Carnival and Graps. GrapsApparel.com is offering you 15% off when you use the promo code Johners. And if you like Graps Apparel, why not use a code from Johners Podcast Network to get a 15% discount? Go over to GrapsApparel.com and see what's there. And of course, we are always brought to you by Coolbet. Stay cool, bet responsibly. We want to thank you for joining us live right now on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. And of course, you can always catch us on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or anywhere you get podcasts from. And of course, we're available on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and by email at scumbagswrestling@gmail.com. And you can always check out our site, scumbagswrestling.ca. So thank you again. I've rambled for almost an hour, and I still have about 20 more minutes to go when we talk about NXT TakeOver. So I'll see you in just a couple minutes.
If you want a variety of wrestling news and history, look no further than the Scumbags Wrestling family of shows. On Wednesday nights at 6 p.m., join Sean, Steven, and Jonesy as we look for the best of the best and break it all down in a unique tournament format on Fantasy Warfare Tournament. Then Thursdays at noon, take a look back at the rich history of our great sport with This Week in History. Relive title changes, births, deaths, and some of the best events of all time. Finally, join us for the latest in wrestling news, show results, and predictions Thursday nights at 8 p.m. for the Scumbags Wrestling Podcast. The Scumbags Wrestling can be found on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Instagram, along with our audio versions on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or anywhere else you get your podcasts from. We're We're a proud part of the Ontario Indie Wrestling Podcast Network and the Johners Podcast Network.